Hello, please create a new notes page called Early Industrialization 1800 to 1840s on the right side of your notebook. This title will be on top of all the slides, Early Industrialization 1800 1840s, to serve as an umbrella and just a reminder of the big topic we're dealing with. Roman numeral 1, terms. So these are terms that you're going to need to know moving forward throughout this presentation and throughout the rest of this semester. So big ideas, big terms that you need to know. First one is A, suffrage. And suffrage is the right to vote. For example, women's suffrage is a woman's right to vote. B is manufacturing. And that's to make something on a large scale using machinery. So you would use a machine, for example, what Henry Ford did, to make a lot of cars, rather than use your hands to make one car at a time. So it's not using your hands anymore to make things, but using machines to turn a product out at a large scale. And we have industrialization. And this is a shift from farming economy to a manufacturing economy. Until the 1800s, most people were farmers, and they were what are called subsistence farmers. That means they made or produced or grew just enough food for their family and themselves, and maybe sold a little bit beyond that. But now we're shifting to a manufacturing economy, and that is where people are no longer making money from farming or being able to survive off farming, but they are working in factories where there are items, products being manufactured. And then we have urbanization. And of course, urbanization is linked to industrialization because industrialization brings about factories. Well, people are going to cities to work in those factories. So it is the growth in population and size of cities. You also have a lot of immigrants coming into America in the early 1800s, and they are going to these cities and working in these factories because they are available job opportunities. All right, Roman numeral 2, political reforms in the early 1800s, so anything that has to do with politics or government, big trends. First is white men's suffrage. And this is all white men are allowed to vote in the 1820s. And it happens state by state and then eventually becomes throughout the entire nation. And you can see democracy is expanding. So more people are having a say in what laws are being made or who their representatives are. And it's because there are fewer restrictions, including property requirements. So these white men that are being allowed to vote no longer have property requirements. It used to be that it was white men with property. Now those property requirements have been lifted or removed, so now it's just white men. Of course, women and people of color are not allowed to vote at this time. Election of 1824, Andrew Jackson is elected president, and he was known as the common man's president. He related to that common voter, that white male that maybe didn't own property. And so he benefits from white men's suffrage and is elected. Okay, economic reform in the early 1800s, anything that has to do with money. So first of all, there are barriers to industrialization in the early 1800s. Let's start with transportation. You are, at best, able to move around on a horse or by horse. And even if you have a carriage or buggy, you still cannot haul much, and it's still, relatively speaking, very slow. Also, roads are in really poor condition, or they just don't exist at all. If you want to travel by boat, well, it's by water only, of course. It's a boat, but water freezes in the winter. And also, certain currents are going certain directions, and you simply can't use or have access to those rivers because of their currents. So it's restricting the amount of travel that can be done. Then the steam engine comes along, and the steam engine equals industrialization because it is used in several different ways for manufacturing as well as for transportation. So what is a steam engine? It's a heat engine that performs mechanical work using steam as its working fluid. So it provides power to an engine. It impacts transportation. So steamships are much faster, more cargo, and can go upstream. They're also being used to cross the ocean, which fuels immigration, as we shall see. Drawbacks is the water is still freezing, so you can only travel at certain times of year. Trains begin to come into the picture, but they need tracks, but they can go all year, but you need to lay the tracks down. And then manufacturing with the steam engine. So trains use the steam engine as well, and then manufacturing is going to be using the steam engine. And the steam engines are used to power machines, which allows for mass production to take place. So you could take that cotton, and rather than hand weaving the cotton into cloth by hand, which is extremely slow, a machine powered by a steam engine can do it much faster. And then you can turn those products out into the market for people to buy or purchase. So now you are beginning to see people not just making their own clothing, but now what's available to them are things that are manufactured, so they can go to stores to buy what they previously used to make by hand. That's going to allow for more time. So we talked a little bit about this already with our dates, but the War of 1812 is a significant shift. And the U.S. cannot rely on Britain for goods while at war, and they learn how to do it on their own while they're at war, and as a result, the U.S. shifts from relying on Britain for manufacturing raw materials to using factories to manufacture raw materials domestically. That means within the borders of the United States. So the United States is becoming more self-sufficient, not depending on factories in England to turn raw goods into products. Urbanization. So industrialization equals more time. I talked about it a little bit earlier. There's a couple reasons for this, which I'll discuss right now. Number one, farming is a very labor-intensive job that takes a lot of hours in the day to do the right way. If you're not farming but working in a factory, you're punching in and out of a clock from, let's say, 8 to 5. You then have time in the evening to do more stuff. Okay? In addition, industrialization creates goods at a faster rate. And because it does that, you're able to sell things in stores like clothing that normally you would have to make by hand. Now, you can just go to a store to buy it. That creates more time on your hands. Factories. These are in cities, and they're usually near water or rivers so that the rivers or water flow could provide power. Hence, a Pittsburgh or a St. Paul are cities that are near rivers. Water powers the machines in the factory. Water allows for the transportation of goods. So the water creates the power within the factory, and then those goods that are created in the factory can be placed on boats and shipped around the country to different markets. C, factories need workers. So immigrants come to the United States for the opportunity to have a job, and they start coming by the thousands because of job opportunities that exist. And there's probably some push factors in their countries as well. Farmers with mechanization of farming, fewer farmers can farm more land, allows many to move to cities to work in factories. So let me break this down. Because they are starting to use machines for farming, you don't need as many hands in the field. As a result, there are less people working on farms. For those people to find jobs, they go to the cities to find work in factories. As urbanization occurs, there is more shops. So people are buying goods. They're not making it by hand. That's more time. Markets to buy food. You're not growing your own food. That saves you time. And housing. So there's more people, and so there is the development of housing in cities, and you begin to start seeing the high-rise or urban growth, which is going up instead of out. So that condensed housing that really marks an urban center or a city center. Okay, put this little note next to this. Because immigrants are coming to the United States for job opportunities, this is population growth. So the country is growing in population. Also put this little note next to farmers getting off the farm because you don't need as many farmers anymore because of machines doing the farming, so they're going to the cities. This is causing geographic growth, meaning there's more cities that are forming and growing. All right, thank you for watching.